Hi there, Donald here from Prepforce. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the main parts of the Prepforce platform. So first up, on our top left here, we can see the connections page. This is where you grant access to your source and destinations. So for Prepforce, primary source will be SFTP. You do need an SFTP server in order to ingest files onto the Prepforce platform. So if you don't already have an SFTP server, you can use a service like SFTP to go to set one up in a couple of minutes. And then in order to add that connection onto the Prepforce platform, you just click new connection, you click on your SFTP here, you can use the name for whatever you want. And then in terms of authentication method, various authentication methods. And then also in terms of connection type, you can check the documentation that was emailed to you in order to do the various access types. So with that, we can just choose a direct connection for now. And your username will be your SFTP username and password likewise. And then host name will be your SFTP host. Once you've those done, then you can create the connection. And then second connection you can do is your Salesforce. And so this one is just an OAuth connection. When you click it, it'll just pop up with your to ask you for your username and password, and your connections will be created. So let me hop into one of our solutions that already has a connection set up. And we can go in here and look at the connections. So you'll see here that we do have both connections, one SFTP, one Salesforce connection. The Prepforce platform does allow a max of 2 connections. Just keep that in mind. If you do go to add a new connection, you'll be prompted that you'll just need to speak with one of our team members or look at a full tailored demo to upgrade to the integrated platform. So if you need to if you add one by mistake, you need to remove one, you can just remove the connection from here, and then that'll allow you to add a second one or a max of 2 with that. So once you have our connections set up, we can then proceed to our packages. And the package is where you're going to create your data pipelines. From there, I'll name a package, let's call it demo. Then that will bring me into the package designer. So this is where you'll spend most of your time in the platform, is building out your actual data pipelines with transformations. So first up, I'll go into my component and add a file storage because I want to ingest a file. For most of your use cases, you likely will be ingesting files. You can also use Salesforce as a source, and I'll show you that in a few minutes, an example. But for now, let's go with a file storage component as a source and choose my SFTP connection. I can then specify the actual source path. So this can be like a direct file, it can be a directory. You can have, with that, you can really just define what you need within here. And so for me, I'm going to define a file, and so my file is customer, it's a CSV file. And again, in terms of file types supported, Prepforce supports ingesting all different file types, whether that's CSV, Excel, XML, JSON, Parquet, they're all supported. And then depending on what file you are ingesting will depend on what you choose on these. So for me, I'll just leave those as is. And then again, depending on your file, what it's like, you'll choose the delimiters. Again, if there's standard or you want custom, and then also on string qualifiers, choose what you need there. So for me, I just leave these as default. With source action, this is how it processes for the files coming through. So options here are to process all files directly from the source. So if it's coming through, it'll just process all the files you specified for this path. Or if you're running it time and time again, you want to rerun it with new files, you just choose to process only new files. So essentially, like an incremental load is what this is. For me, I'll just run new files. And we can proceed then to select the input fields. So what this does is it just brings in the data and a preview of it. And so anything here on the left is what is on your source file. Anything here on the right is what you've selected to bring in. So the CSV, you select all of them to come through. If you want to change data types right here, you can do that. And then coming through, you can see a preview of what data looks like. You can view it on a table format and then also on a raw format here. So that's step 1. I have my data brought onto the platform, and I can then proceed to do my data transformations. So with that, I can then click in here and add transformations. With the transformations, there's 2 different types. There's the table level transformations, and then there are the field level transformations. So table level are anything like, say, a join, a filter, union. With that, for example, when I look at a filter, we just go in here, we choose the conditions that we want to match on. And then we want to choose what the actual expression is. So for me, I want to say filter on email, and if text is not empty. And then with that, I can just save that, and it just means it'll run that filter as a first step in the pipeline. So the second option then is you can do field level transformations. So with that, we use our select component. and we click in here, we choose autofill. This just brings in all the fields that we've selected to bring in the first step. And then I have a few different options here. I can add new columns, do transformations on those. I can do transformations on the existing fields as well, or the existing columns. So let's say, for example, I want to do some transformation on this email column. With that, I can click on here, which pops up my expression editor. And then you can see here there's a wide range of transformations that operate on a field level. So there's everything from, say, hashing data to working with datetime, formatting data types. You can even, like, you want to do a curl to call out to an external API, bring some data back in and use that in your pipeline. With this email, what I want to do is I want to make sure that all emails coming through are lowercase. So I can search here for lowercase. I'll just bring that in and put these in brackets. And again, if I hover over here, I can see what it expects me to put in. So I can just put those in and insert that. So that's that step one, done with my transformations. And then the next step I want to do is I want to actually create a new column that is a combination of the first name and last name. So I'll create a full name. So with that, I'll come in here, I can pop up my expression editor again, and I can come in and then just run or search for my concat function. So look at that, it allows me to join various fields or various text. So with that, I just choose here, I'll open with brackets, and then I'll come into fields here. This pops up all the available fields that I'm ingesting. So first name, I want to go first, then I want to put in a space, and then I want to put in last name. So that is my function done. I can save that, and then I just want to name this new column as full name. Second one I want to do then is I want to add a fixed value. And so let's say for this file I'm ingesting, there's no lead source on them, but I know this whole file is full of leads from, say, our Q3 event. So what I want to do is I want to hard code Q3 event to every record that gets processed, and then name that as lead source. And that is my transformations done. So once I've got done, then I can do as many of these transformation steps as I need to, depending on my use case. Say, for example, you can do stuff like if you want to do a clone, right? So you can do, what it allows you to do is to build out pipelines in different directions. So it's essentially like a split, right? And so let's say, for example, you want to do a select here and do some filtering. You then want to do a different select here and do other filtering. It allows you to continue down. So it's, again, pretty flexible depending on what your requirements are. Let's say, for example, I just want to finish off my pipeline here. And so with that, I can just go through and select my destination, which will be Salesforce. Again, you have the option of Salesforce SOAP API or the bulk API. So for this, I'll choose the bulk, and I'll just choose my destination that I've created earlier. Then I can come through here and specify my properties. So again, I can choose from bulk API 2.0 or 1.0. I'll go with 2. And then my target object, that can be either the standard objects, can be custom objects, and then also obviously later on we can load to either standard fields or custom fields with that. So for me, I want to load into the lead object. In terms of operation type, this is how I want to add that into Salesforce. So pretty much supports all various loading types. So for me, I'll do my insert. And then with the more advanced options, it's just like how many errors you want the loading to handle or to support or to allow, I guess, on the Salesforce ingestion. And then thread count is if you want to sort of increase performance or add decrease the runtime of your loading in. And then also you can do here, this is pretty handy, is being able to output your failed records. So let's say, for example, Salesforce rejects 10 of your records. You don't know why. What this allows you to do is just to output those Salesforce records into a CSV. You can push those into your SFTP, and that will just then specify the path, and then you can just view those in your SFTP server. So pretty handy with that one. I'll leave it blank for now and just proceed to the final step, which is the mapping. So once that is done, I can come in here and I can just choose to map these. The auto mapping will map the ones I can, and then I'll be left likely to just do a few manual myself. So I'll just delete this company name because we've already matched up here. And then with full name, again, I can choose what I'll put in here. I'm going to add it into the primary, which is a custom field. And again, I don't have to bring in all of these. These are the ones grayed out here are my required fields. If I don't want to bring in first name, for some reason, I just remove that. And then this is my fully mapped data and my first pipeline built out. So then I can proceed up here to click Save and Validate. This essentially does like a quick hygiene check to make sure that your pipeline is in good order before you run it. So I can see here, great, it looks like it's all good to go. And then I can choose to run the job. So I can click run here. In this instance, I have a sandbox cluster already spun up. The cluster essentially just spins up as the infrastructure that Prepforce spins up in order to execute your pipeline. And so with that then, if let's say I didn't have one of these, I just create a new one here. You can name it if you want, or we'll just name it by default if you choose to leave it blank. And I can just create this cluster. And oops, I remembered, yeah, I can only create one cluster at a time. So I already have this one cluster spun up. That's why it won't allow me to create a second one. But what I can do now is I can just proceed here to execute or choose the package or packages that I wish to execute. So I can run multiple or execute multiple packages in this on this cluster. But for me, I just have one package as of now. And then for more advanced use cases, you can add package variables. This allows you to add variables that you can use across in the different points in the package, rather than having to go in and edit it multiple places. You can have like one sort of variable and add that in multiple times. And then if I'm happy with those, I don't have any for this package, I can just click on run the job. And so what that's going to do then is it's going to kick off the cluster to spin up and execute then my pipeline. And you can come in here to the job section in a few minutes and we can just take a look at that. So for now, what I want to do is I want to go back to one of the use cases I mentioned earlier of when you may use Salesforce as a source. So for example, let's say I have this SFTP data. So for me, it's a lead file of leads. And so with that, I have like email addresses, I have first name, I have last name, but I don't have like the Salesforce ID. So I don't know if they're already in Salesforce. If they happen to be, I don't have their IDs. So what I could do here is I could add my Salesforce component as a source. You can have multiple sources here, right? And then what we could do is we could do a join on this. So I can join these two. And with that, I already have my my package here selected. What I need to do on Salesforce then is choose my connection, proceed here and choose again my API version. I'll do 2.0. I have two different options then when I want to decide how to access the data from Salesforce. So I can do an object here, or I can do query mode. This allows me to query directly. If I do object, I just need to choose which object, again, either standard or custom. And with that, I can just choose lead. Then again, if I want to do some further filtering, I can just write a where clause here. And I can choose how I want to source or to query. So I just do a bulk query. And if I want to max or put a limit on the records to pull in, I can do that as well. So I'll leave those blank for now. And over here, you'll see all the available fields on the lead object in Salesforce. So if I want to bring in all of these, I just select all of them. Anything on the right is getting brought into my pipeline. If I want to just remove some of these, for example, I can remove some of these, but I want to bring in all of these. So let's bring in all of them. So let's save that then, and I can proceed to my next step, which is a join. With a join then, I can just come in here and choose a join type, right? And then in terms of joint optimization, if I want to do that, I can just do that. And then lastly, I choose what are my join keys. So with this, I want to do email. I know I can match all my email. And so let's do that, and that will be our join. So that means that when we proceed to our next step, it is bringing in all the data from your CSV file. It's bringing in all the data from your Salesforce, and it's joining those based on if it's present or not. So what that means is then on my next component, let's say I want to do this, I can then see all the various ones that are joined, and I have like all the data from both sides. So what that means is I can actually access my IDs from Salesforce using that. And then when I go to load into Salesforce later on in the pipeline, I have my Salesforce IDs to load in with. So that's one example of where you use your Salesforce as a source here and do that. Other use cases could be if you actually just wanted to extract data from Salesforce and do some cleaning up and then push data back in. You don't have to have a file source here. You could just have Salesforce, and you could actually have a destination here as Salesforce again and load back into it. So it really depends on your use cases as what you want to do, but they are the main ones. Some other things worth noting around here are, one, you have version control. So with this, you can see here, it allows you to roll back to previous versions of your package. So for example, if I save this, I can choose either a quick save or create a major. So with that, I can just add as a description. So I can just say test, create this, and then you'll see this will upgrade to version 2.0. If I want to come back in here, I can just choose which I'd like to revert to. So if I'm editing a package or I'm building a package, I make some errors, I want to go back a few steps, I can just come back here to do that. And then also in here, we have our notes functionality. So you can add just notes if you want to remember what you're doing or why you're doing a certain thing. You can add notes in here and just put them beside your components. And then also in here, you have our variables. And so our variables, again, allow you to add variables that you can work throughout the package. So instead of having to repeat yourself multiple times, you can just set one thing on the variable level and then just include that variable call in each of your components. Again, you can check on that on our documentation. And speaking of documentation, all that documentation is, if you come down here to our help component, you can see our knowledge base here. And so given the fact that our Prepforce platform is built on top of our Integrated platform, it's the exact same documentation. So if you come in here, click on Get Started, you'll see all the various documentation there for setting up and understanding the platform. And then also if you need to search for anything, right? So let's say, for example, you want SFTP, you want to see how do I allow access to my SFTP connection. You can just come down here and read the documentation for that piece. And then finally, we do have our support down here. So you can click in here and click on live support. The support on the platform is done by best effort. Now we obviously prioritize our Integrated paying customers first, but then we do look at this Prepforce channel when we do have the time. So it may not be response right away, but if you submit a ticket, we will respond to it whenever we get time to review those. And that is pretty much the platform. Apart from that, you have your main settings page. Again, there's nothing too out of the ordinary here, but you can look around with that, but it's just, again, your account name, etc. with that. And with those, anything else? Yeah, I think there's nothing else too major in here. You will see some functionality that if you're looking to access, for example, let's say I'm looking to create a package and I want to create a workflow. It'll pop up just to speak with one of our team. That'll just be, if you want to use our full platform, which is Integrated, that'll be a time just to review the full Integrated platform. And obviously our Prepforce solution is there's quite a few of the functionality withheld from the core Integrated platform, but it allows you to do the basics of cleaning your data, your file data, and getting into Salesforce. So if you're interested in learning more about the full Integrated platform, you can schedule a time with one of our team to learn more. I hope it's been helpful. As I said, reach out to us and support if there's anything you have questions on. And we're always open to feedback for this. It's a relatively new solution for us that we've built on top of our existing solution. So any feedback is always welcome. Thank you.